You know, sometimes we'll look at another place and we'll go, oh, that's weird that they live that way. No, it's weird that we live this way. We're the weird ones. You know, you guys, some of you could probably go, oh, it's weird, our pastor's Chinese. No, it's weird that you're not. You know, sometimes it's like we get into this world where we just think, I mean, you guys are. But, you know, we get in this world where we just think, gosh, you know, the way they live is so strange. No, the way we live is so strange. I mean, isn't that crazy that if there were 100 people in the room and you got your computer and your internet connection, you know, house, they would just look at you like, whoa, you're one of the 3 people that has all of that? $2 a day over half of the world? Here's $2. $2. I want to show you something. Look at you. Did you see that? They just kind of go. Don't let that $1 bill touch me. He throws it back. There's probably a couple more on the ground from the last 2 services. It's just, no one's reaching for it. You know, I guarantee you, no one's going to leave here today and call their friends and go, no way, Francis threw out $2. But do you understand that the majority of the world would look at what I just did and think, that is crazy? Most people would go, I can't believe he just did that. And no one even reached for it. 53 out of 100 live on that per day. Now maybe if I threw out 2 $100 bills, maybe someone might have reached out a hand. Because that's more like a day's wage for us, right? You know, $200 a day, you know, you make about $4,000 a month. That's about a day's wage. Now, isn't that weird? I mean, how does that hit you to think that you make 100 times 100 times the amount of what the average person on this planet makes? That over half of the people, you make 100 times what they make if you make $4,000 a month. I don't know if that's weird or it's weirder that you don't think you're rich. You know how everyone else in the world would look at this? They would just go, no way. Do you know how strange it is to the rest of the world? Imagine if you're one of those 53 out of the 100, and you look at some people that are making 100 times what you make, and you hear them complain about money. You guys, have you ever stopped to think how the rest of the world looks at us? We are so weird. We are so filthy, filthy, filthy rich. And yet most of you would say that you're not. And I'm hoping to change that today. I'm hoping you can walk out of this room like I do and go, man, I am just loaded. I am just absolutely rich beyond imagination. You know, because that's the way the rest of the world looks at me. And we've got to accept it. We're rich. That's my point. You don't like to think of yourself as rich, but you are so rich. And yet some of you would call yourself broke. And the rest of the world will just look at you and go, man, what an idiot. You're stressed out about money. You're stressed out about 30 years from now. The point is, you're rich. I'm rich. And that puts us at a very serious disadvantage spiritually. What the Bible says, what Jesus says, is you're rich, and that's a huge disadvantage for you. Jesus says it is so hard for the rich to enter the kingdom of God. See, we thought riches were this great advantage. Oh, it's so cool because look at all I have. Oh, those poor people over there. And Jesus goes, ooh, you're at such a disadvantage because you're rich. It is so hard for the rich to enter the kingdom of heaven. You know how hard it is? People have said, Francis, you're always talking about the poor over there and caring for them. Don't you care about the people that are spiritually poor? And I go, yeah, that's why I'm in Simi Valley. Not only are we the richest people in the world, but you talk about security. Let's live in the safest city in the world too. Who do you think on this planet, I think the toughest people to reach are right here in this room. The richest, safest, secure people on this planet. Jesus says in Luke chapter 18, where he says, it's hard. You guys, we in this room, we're at a serious disadvantage. Luke chapter 18, he talks to a person who has wealth. Talks to one of us. Luke 18, verse 18, a certain ruler asked him, "Good teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" Okay, so there was this rich man who wanted to go to heaven, right? That's us. That's why you're in this room, right? You're a rich person that wants to go to heaven. That's what we have in this room. That's what we have in the satellite room. In the satellite room, we have rich people who want to go to heaven, and they're always late for church. Okay. I'm kidding, you guys. I know some of you guys go in there to make room here, and thank you for that. The rest of you, you're just late. Luke 18, here's a rich young ruler, comes to God, and comes to Jesus. "Good teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" Verse 19, "Why do you call me good?" Jesus answered, "No one's good except God alone. You know the commandments. Don't commit adultery, don't murder, don't steal, don't give false testimony, honor your father and mother." Verse 21, "All these I've kept since I was a boy." When Jesus heard this, he said to him, "You still lack one thing. Sell everything you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come follow me." When he heard this, he became very sad because he was a man of great wealth. Jesus looked at him and said, "How hard it is for the rich to enter the kingdom of God. Indeed, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God." Those who heard this asked, "Who then can be saved?" And Jesus replied, "What's impossible with men is impossible with God." God tells this rich man, just sell everything you have and give to the poor. And the guy's like, "Ah." And he just went away sad. He couldn't do it. And Jesus goes, "Oh, it's so hard. It's so hard when you're rich to enter the kingdom of heaven because you actually think your riches are worth something. And like, I don't know if I could give them up because you just get so clouded. It's so hard." He goes, it'd be easy for me to cram a camel into the eye of a needle than it is to get a rich man into the kingdom of God. Man, I've been studying this passage for 20 years. Man, I've read this backwards. I've heard so many sermons on it explaining every piece of this or that. After 20 years of studying, I'm just going, you know what? I know what this means now. I finally figured out what Jesus was trying to say when he says it's hard for the rich to enter the kingdom of God. You see, what Jesus was really trying to say was that it's hard for the rich to enter the kingdom of God. I'm convinced of that. You see, we sometimes dissect the passage so much that we're just blinded to what it's obviously saying. He's just looking at the rich guy going, "Man, it's so hard. Do you understand? This is one of the hardest places in the world to tell people about Jesus. For them to get it because we're so rich and so comfortable." And he says, it's impossible. He goes, "You know what? It's impossible. It's impossible for the rich to get into heaven. That's how hard it is." He goes, "But with God it is possible." It's impossible from a human level, but it can happen. It can happen. That's why I'm here. I go, you know what? It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be probable. But by the power of God, some of you could go to heaven. You see, because if you keep reading, then the disciples go, "Well, we left everything," verse 29, verse 28. We left all we had to follow you. And Jesus says, "I tell you the truth, no one who's left his home, wife, brothers, sisters, parents, children for the sake of the kingdom will fail to receive many times as much in this age and in the age to come." You keep reading, Jesus predicts his death, and he gives a blind beggar his sight. And then in chapter 19, what happens? Look at the story, very important. Chapter 19, verse 1, Jesus entered Jericho, and he's passing through, and a man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but being a short man, he couldn't because of the crowd. So he ran ahead, climbed up a sycamore fig tree to see him since Jesus was coming that way. Remember the story? And then when Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. So he came down at once, welcomed him gladly. And all the people saw this and began to mutter, he's gone to be the guest of a sinner. But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor. And if I've cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount. Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this house. So here's a wealthy man, and what happened that day? Salvation. What happened that day? The impossible. A rich man jumped out of a tree and said, here, take my money. Here, half goes to the poor, and the rest of it, who did I rip off? Here, 4 times, whatever I ripped you off. I don't care about money anymore. Jesus just invited me in. Jesus wants to dine with me. Look, Lord, you know what? I don't care because I found this treasure now, so all my other stuff, it doesn't matter. I give it all away. And Jesus says, okay, he got it. See, I told you. The rich can enter the kingdom of heaven. It's near impossible, but with God all things are possible. And it happens. Salvation has come to this house. You see, the kingdom of heaven is not like the rich young ruler who said, man, I got my wealth. He's telling me to give it to the poor. I don't know, man. He went away sad. The kingdom of heaven is about a little man who jumps out of a tree and goes, man, I don't care about my stuff. What is the kingdom of heaven like? The kingdom of heaven is like a man who finds a treasure in a field, right? And he sees this treasure. It's so great that he covers it back up. And he goes, man, let me just get rid of everything else I have because I want that field so badly. He doesn't have to sit there and think about it and go, man, I don't know if it's worth it. It says, with great joy. You get it. You see that the treasure is that great that, I don't even have to think. This isn't compare. This isn't let me weigh it out. What's more valuable? With great joy, let me just sell everything I have and get this field. With great joy. Did you ever picture Zacchaeus slowly climbing down the tree and going, all right, I guess I'll give some to the poor. I feel kind of guilty about it anyways. Or if I ripped you off, I'll pay you back. I don't see that. You just picture this little Danny DeVito guy going, woo, just jumping, and here's all my money, here you go, and anyone I ripped off, I don't care because I've got God. It's like this treasure that was so great. See, but that's so rare. You see, because money does weird things to people. It just does. I've heard people say that many times. Haven't you heard that? Hear that statement? Have you used that statement? Man, money does weird things to people. One statement I have yet to hear in my lifetime. Money has done weird things to me. It's always someone else, huh? You guys, money has done weird things to us. Money has done very weird things to us. Accept it. See, Jesus says that the thing with money is it gives you this false sense of security. You start feeling safer the more you have, rather than finding your security in God. The more you have, the less you're inclined to believe that you're needy.